Semper Fi. I am your host, Staff Sergeant Bonstein, or commonly referred to Staff Sergeant B. We'll get on with the show right after we talk about some historical facts on September 16th. And, in the Navy, 1917, a Navy detachment authorized the establishment of 16 naval air stations aboard. In general, in 1919, the American Legion was incorporated by the Act of Congress. Those who didn't know that one. And in 1940, in the Army, under authorization of a grant granted by Congress, by the Congress President Franklin Roosevelt, ordered the Army to begin mobilizing the entire National Guard for a year's training prompted by the worsening conditions in Europe. So they already foreseen it coming and started getting people out there. 1942, in the Marines, the 3rd Marine Division activated at Camp Elliott in California. That was pretty much it for what happened in history on September 16th. So without further ado, my next guest is a retired Command Sergeant Major. It'll be Sergeant Major Ted Farson. So with a magazine of 5 rounds, let's lock and load. Sergeant Major, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Fine. And I have absolutely no idea what to talk about here.
Well,
so I guess we talk about a little background.
all right.
And then we'll get into some specific stuff.
Okay.
I first went in the service. I joined the Air Force. Did 2 years in the Air Force. Got out and became a civilian. Didn't like it. Went back and joined the Army. So that was in 1955, which is a long time ago. And after basic training, I stayed a little while and was a drill instructor for a little bit. And then went to Fort Irwin, California. And Fort Irwin was the first duty assignment. It was a pretty nice place, except there was no air conditioning. It's in the middle of the desert, and it's hot as the dickens. From Fort Irwin, I went to Japan, assigned to the Army Security Agency, ASA, and then moved down from Fukuoka up to Camp Drake, just outside of Tokyo. Interesting assignment because the Korean War was going on at that time, and I was assigned to a replacement depot there. Very young, had no idea what I was doing, how I was going to do it. But after that, the tour was up. I went back to the States and decided I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I re-enlisted in the Army, and I re-enlisted for the Air Defense Corps because I was still young, and they had duty stations in Los Angeles and Hollywood, and I thought that would be pretty cool. So I went down there. After Hollywood and San Pedro is where we were actually stationed in the Air Defense.
How long did you get stationed over in, well, how long were you stationed in Japan first? How long was that?
2 years.
That was a 2-year
2 years,
time?
yeah. And I had a really good time over there. I picked up a little Japanese because I lived on the local economy, and I wasn't supposed to, but I did. And you just don't always do what you're supposed to do. In any event, after that, and I came back and re-enlisted, went to like I said, Los Angeles. After Los Angeles, they activated new commands because they were looking for air defense people all over America. They were all scared of everything. This is back in the 50s, and they were expanding air defense throughout everywhere. They had them all over Canada, Alaska, United States. But I re-enlisted again and went to a place called Kansas City. They had a song called Kansas City, and I thought that was really cool, so I thought I'd go do that. Stuck me out in a little bitty site north of there in Excelsior Springs, a really fine town, and the people were so friendly I just couldn't hardly believe it. But after that, I came out on orders from there and went overseas. So that was my first trip to Germany, and I went to 1st Battle Group, 7th Infantry, and did 3 years there. Lived in a little town called Aschaffenburg. I'd gotten married, had a wife, some kids, and we were always in the field, out of the field and back to duty. But after I left 1st Battle Group, 7th Infantry, for that 3 years, I went to Washington, D.C. I'd made some pretty high pro-pay scores, and so they selected me for an assignment to the Pentagon.
Really?
So I was assigned to a little company called USASCAF, which is a really unique organization. It's the service center for the armed forces. They operate the passport office, the garage for the Pentagon has all the drivers and the vehicles there. The 3rd Infantry Regiment is right across the way.
All right.
The NCO Club is on Fort Myers, and I was real interested in the NCO Club. In those days, I was still drinking. But the USASCAF assignment was very interesting because I learned how things actually operate in the military, and some of the things that happen are just out of sight. We had to select people for Vietnam and assign them, and one of the people was a troop movement specialist, and I don't think I want to mention his name, but he was the presidential bag boy. All the people that are in Washington, D.C. perform some kind of a function normally in support of the federal government, one way or another. Andrews Air Force Base is a whole Air Force base for the sole purpose of providing aircraft to senators, the president, and all of the staff. It's really an amazing thing. But get back to this this troop movement specialist. He was assigned to the White House. His sole function was to pack the president's bags on his trip. He would go in and take all the underwear out and put them in a bag, take them to the new organization, wherever the president was going to speak, to the hotel room, and he would put them in the drawers for the president, so the president didn't have to do this as part of the presidential entourage, which is, back in those days, there was around 100 people in the presidential entourage moving along with him. They would set up commo, they set up logistical supply and support and cooks, and you just name it, and everybody went. In addition to that, we also had the White House garage, which was part of that same USASCAF organization. And they had sergeant majors assigned to the White House garage, 2 of them as a matter of fact, in case, so one could be on duty and the other one could be off. But they had the bubble car and the Secret Service in there, and all of the drivers for USASCAF, which were both the Pentagon and for the White House and for other organizations that would call for a car, were really good jobs.
Really?
Yeah. But we were the first people to develop something called GPS. It was developed by civilians, but it was assigned to the vehicles in Washington, D.C. We could tell where those drivers were going and what they were doing. If they stopped off at their girlfriend's house and it wasn't on the route, we could tell.
What year was this?
This is in 1960.
So GPS has been a lot longer than people think.
Yes, it has. Almost everything that's developed, the military usually had it first. They pay a lot of money for research and development. So after I left the Pentagon, I found the guy in the NCO Club who handled assignments. He worked in the Pentagon assignment section, and I wanted to go home to my hometown of San Francisco. So I got reassigned to Presidio of San Francisco, which is a pretty good duty.
Now, what was your rank at that time? You were still Sergeant Major then?
No, I'm just an E4.
You were an E4 back at that
E4
time?
then.
All right.
Yeah.
So now
E4.
we're
I finally
some
got
rank.
Yeah. I finally did a really good tour there, and then went to Thailand. So I did a year in Thailand over there, and I got promoted to E5, E6, and E7 in Thailand, all 3.
Really? How many years were you in Thailand?
2.
Just 2 years? You got
Yeah.
made 3 ranks over there?
Yeah.
Meritoriously or just?
Hell no.
No. Were you ever meritoriously promoted?
No.
Neither was I.
No.
All my rank was late. Not me, my rank.
Anyway, from Thailand was a really good assignment. We had 46 Special Forces attached to us there, and they were a bunch of really gung-ho, really great men. These are some above and beyond soldiers like nothing you've ever seen.
Dedicated.
Oh, dedicated.
Real
These
dedicated
Special Forces guys. But anyway, it was a good assignment. But I left Thailand, went back to Germany, and was assigned to a thing called TASCOM, which was Theater Army Support Command. In there, we had a thing called the 5th Replacement Battalion, and we provided troops to 11 different countries, whatever specialties they needed, and some was NATO SHAPE headquarters, and some of the other places. It was a pretty good duty assignment. But we were in Worms, Germany, which is really a central location, and from there, I toured Europe quite a bit. Get in my car on the weekend and drive to Switzerland, drive to France.
How long does that take to drive those areas?
About 5 hours.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
3
never made
hours,
it out there.
3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. You can be almost anywhere. You can be in Paris 5 hours. Germany is a really good assignment. I don't know why we're still there, but that's true. Germany was a good assignment. So after I left Germany, then I went to Vietnam, and I was sitting down to the 564th MP Company, and that's where I was going to go. But a friend of mine, a second lieutenant at the time, who had just got promoted, came in with a helicopter and picked me up and took me to Saigon, and I went to work for a general named Cheadle, Air Force general in J6 in the Camo section. They ran the communications for all of Vietnam and the Philippines and that sort of thing. I was just an administrator for them, and it was another pretty good assignment. And I spent 11 months over there, got out, and then rotated back to the United States and went to Fort Carson, Colorado, and the 4th Infantry Division, a really good division. And at that
What's
time,
the 4th Infantry? Is that a mobile unit? Is it a ground unit?
it's an infantry unit.
All right,
Infantry division.
So you were...
And it has all components of the infantry division,
And
including
everybody in there.
armor, helicopters, you name it, and they had it. So while I was there, I got a real good idea that what I wanted to do. I had been in a joint command in Saigon, and we had Air Force and Navy, even some Marines, believe it or not, assigned to the act. Yeah, we had a few. And
I'm not going to say nothing.
yes. What's this?
Means we're getting close to a commercial.
Oh. So anyway, from 4th Infantry Division, we had an activity there. That was in Colorado Springs. In Colorado Springs is an activity called NORAD, North American Air Defense Command. And a vacancy came up in NORAD, and I thought, well, I think I would like to go do that. So I went over there and interviewed, and they said they liked me, so they had the ability to by name requisition. Thank you. Are we done?
Not yet.
By name. Anyway, I got the job. So just before I got over there, I got promoted to E8, and so I got into NORAD as an E8, and I assumed the duties of first sergeant of the detachment, and we had all services except Air Force. We had Army, Navy, Marines. We had 20,000 Canadians. It was an international service.
Okay. And on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. So get a cup of coffee and join us. We'll be right back.